Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to Boxing Day. Boxing Day is, of course, today, the day after Christmas, and I, like a lot of Americans, am currently at work. This is a video, but outside. This was filmed yesterday, but I am at work, and this is normal for a lot of Americans. And after I moved to the United States, I thought, well, that's sort of odd to me, coming from a country where, of course, we do celebrate Boxing Day. And not only do we celebrate Boxing Day, but we also have that day off as a bank holiday. Now, anybody who's watching this who might be thinking, what on earth is Boxing Day, which, judging by a poll that I did yesterday, is most Americans, then very quickly, Boxing Day is a national holiday that's been celebrated not only in the United Kingdom, but in Canada, in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, the Commonwealth Nations, for decades, for centuries. And briefly on the etymology of the word Boxing Day, it's very much disputed, but one of the leading arguments is that it comes from this idea of masters giving boxes to their servants on the day after Christmas, kind of to thank them for the hard work that they've put in. So why don't Americans celebrate Boxing Day? And I don't ask that arrogantly, like, America should do everything Britain does. That's not it at all, but it's just based on the fact that it certainly took elements of our harvest festival and made Thanksgiving. It certainly incorporated Halloween into its calendar. So how did Boxing Day not make the cut is the question I have here today. There are several reasons for it, and in fact I alluded to some of those just a moment ago. So let's go back to when the English started to migrate to the United States in the early 17th century. That's when the Mayflower came over to the United States, to Plymouth Rock, carrying the Puritans. Now, one thing that the Puritans did in that very century is move to ban Christmas, much like the Puritans did in 17th century Britain. In New England, they did successfully pass a ban on Christmas, and with that, a lot of the traditions that went with it. But something to note with that is that Boxing Day itself hadn't really fully been cemented, certainly not as a national holiday. The practice was around, but there was no standardization over it. In other words, there's a slight chance that the first major migrators from England to the United States were both too Puritan and too early for this to take shape. But conversely, let's take the aforementioned countries of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, right? All Commonwealth countries, but they weren't technically Commonwealth countries until 1926. That's when the Commonwealth of Nations was formed, and they, along with Britain, were the first member nations at that time. Of course, colonization within those countries happened on the part of Britain way before then, much of it during the Victorian Age. And as we pointed out the other day, the Victorian Age was this time when Christmas in Britain really started to get cemented. The traditions started to take shape and be more standardized. And in fact, it was during 1871 when Boxing Day was made a national holiday in the United Kingdom. And so because Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and Australia joined the Commonwealth of Nations much later than Puritans were moving to New England, Boxing Day just had this greater, more immediate impact. It was able to immerse itself into those nations because it had already been cemented as a national holiday in the United Kingdom. And so you could say that America simply didn't get the memo, but you could also argue that they didn't want the memo because they already had their own national holiday known as Thanksgiving during this sort of holiday period. And let's remember as well that much like Boxing Day, which in these countries that I mentioned, the Commonwealth countries, is put aside for sort of Boxing Day sales, right? Where you go and get the best bargains that you can the day after Christmas. The same is true, though, of course, of Black Friday in the United States. So that purpose is kind of filled by that day in the modern era. So as with a lot of things, the absence of Boxing Day in the United States really just comes down to chance, history, and the timing of events, And when you take into account the fact that the likes of Canada, who, by the way, do celebrate Thanksgiving, we should point that out, are members of this Commonwealth, and the United States aren't, all of that in conjunction could very well lend some explanation as to why Boxing Day didn't take off in the United States. That's it for this episode. That's it for Vlogmas. Thank you for joining me for this 25-day extravaganza. I hope you'll join us tomorrow for the final public live stream of 2019. Don't forget to hit my subscribe button so that my videos don't get lost in the pond like Boxing Day did here. And a big shout out to all my patrons without whom none of this would be possible. From the writing to the research to the 8-hour workday after Christmas. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Anybody that does so will get to join my secret live streams, the next of which is coming in the new year in January. And anybody who pledges $5 or more a month will get that, plus access to my secret podcast and more. Until tomorrow's live stream, have a wonderful rest of December, and I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll chat. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Lost in the Pond. Don't forget to hit my stupid little face to subscribe, and please share this video with the world. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and if you would like to support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond.